This is a guide to help you out with problem 1.3, which is going to be homework for tomorrow. So now we're looking at some tables, and it's asking you some things. First thing I want to notice is that, first of all, I want you to skip number 1 and number 3. We'll say that in class as well. But number 2, it asks you to find a ratio of miles per hour for each day. So what I want you to do is note this relationship to find those. First of all, write your ratio in miles per hours. So for instance, for Monday, I would write 3 to 0.6. And then what you need to do is figure out how many miles will they travel in 1 whole hour. So then set that equal to 1 hour, just like I have over here. Now I can use 3 different methods. I can use rainbow, I can use fish, or I can just divide 3 by 0.6 to find out this answer, and that's how I'm going to set up. Then what I want you to do is explain how you can use ratios and how you can set it up to find out how long it would take him to jog 1.5 hours. Using a similar process, it's exactly what you're going to do. Now scoping down to letter B, this is where all the graphs come in, and this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting. So I just made a model graph that I want you to recognize. This is just for your personal preference, something to cross-check with, but just notice some different things. Notice that I have, just like it says in directions, distance along the vertical axis, so I put distance on my vertical axis. I have time along the horizontal, so I put time along the horizontal. And then I just started graphing my data points. So I went back up to the top, looked, and I have 3 miles in 0.6 hours. So I went to right around to 0.6, right around here, and do a point right at 3 miles. And that's where my first point was. Then I'm looking up here, back up here to 5 miles in 1 hour. Again, 1 hour, 5 miles, my second point. So I just graphed all that information using time on the x, distance on the y. Time on the x, distance on the y, as per my directions. Now it's going to ask you to do some different things here. Things I want you to calculate, you're just going to follow directions and follow along. One thing I want to point out, when you connect your lines, this line that you're making right here, that's the rate that Carl is jogging at. So that's how fast he's going. Because if you see and you start to progress and start to figure out what this graph is telling you, every time time increases by an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, every time he's going up by that exact same distance. So he's covering the same distance between 1 hour and 2 hours as he is 2 and 3 and 3 and 4. That's why it's a straight line. If he wasn't going the same rate, we would see things like he'd go really fast for the first hour, slow down for the second, go really fast for the third, slow down for the second, and we'd see these lines that are not straight at all. But by the fact that we make a semi-straight line tells me he's going pretty darn consistent in his speed as time increases. And we're going to get used to knowing this is that rate. We're drawing rates as unit rates here, but now rates also translate to straight lines on graphs. Last thing I want to point out is down here on C. On C, we see something that says we're starting to get our first variable. You're going to find jogging speed in miles per hour as his unit rate. So that's going back up to this first question, going back to here, that unit rate. Now we're calling this boxed letter, this box number, R. So we're just going to call that whatever that may be, and that's your responsibility to find out what that R stands for. When you look at that, now you're going to, anytime that you see the letter R, you're going to substitute that number that you just found. So say R equals, and I know this is totally incorrect, but say R equals 7. So in this case, now what we're saying, and I just made that number up, but we're saying that he travels 7 miles in 1 hour. So that's his rate. 7 miles in 1 hour. And like I said, totally made up, but if you just need to find out that mileage to figure out the rate. And now every time I see R, I'm going to substitute it with my rate, 7. You're going to substitute it with whatever rate you did find. So on here, I'm going to look on my graph at point 1R is going to be 1, 7, or whatever you find out R to be. So now you're going to plug in that number for R and see, does that fall in the line? Does it not? And then you tell me that story. What does that point represent? 1 on time, and then whatever your R was for rate. What does that really mean? Okay. Here, you're just going to construct a brand new graph. And so you're going to plot those, and you're going to see, just look at some different data. On top of that, we just have one more set of problems that I want you to work on, and that's just looking at the back side of your page, and that is numbers 2 through 7, and that's just taking rates and turning them into unit rates. So how many miles per 1 gallon, how many dollars for 1 keychain, how many calories for 1 serving, just getting down to unit rates. Use this to help you out, otherwise we have plenty of work time to get this done today.